Why did we bring him again?
What's up guys, I'm Alan with Edge Autosport, and on today's episode of Will It Make More Power, we have the Mishimoto intake, which we are going to be installing on our Project Half Stand. Now, for the Mishimoto intake, Mishimoto claims that you can get 6-wheel horsepower and 5-wheel torque by bolting this on with the stock tune. Obviously, we are not on the stock tune, so we don't know if that's still going to carry over, if we're going to get more, if we're not going to get anything. And that's what we want to find out, and that's what we're going to show you guys. So let's go ahead and get this intake out of the box and get it installed. We're going to use the baseline pulls from the last video where we did the spacers, because as of right now, nothing with the car has changed. It hasn't even moved. So we are just good to go ahead and install it, use those previous baselines, and see what it makes. And now for the professional unboxing portion of the segment. Ooh. Ah. Very nice. Very nice. Get a little Mishimoto air freshener. It's probably a filter. Yep, air filter. Which we just put a brand new filter on the car, but it doesn't matter. We'll use the one that comes with it. I don't know if the cob that we have on there will actually fit on this one. I do like the silicone piping that comes with this kit. This looks like probably. This might be the adapter for like the PCB stuff that's on the 2016. I will have to just see. I haven't actually looked at instructions for this yet. We did get the black one for this car, and yeah, it is black. So this is a nice wrinkled black coat. Pretty clean packaging. What's this? Oh, that's the mount. So it's gonna sit in the engine bay like this. This then goes to the turbo. This is where it mounts next to the high pressure fuel pump. And then I assume this is the little, gonna be like the elbow that goes to the air box. It's got some weight to it. I actually didn't really look at this online before we got it. Part of the reason we went with Mishimoto is because that's just what was available at the moment, and it's a pretty good looking intake too. Oh, this is going to be the lid. I like that. I like that lid. It's flat black. It's really nice. I kind of tend to gravitate more towards like OE plus setups and looks and things, and so like the kind of the black and the kind of OEM look with this airbox is pretty nice. It is metal, so you're definitely increasing the weight that you're putting on the car, which for our setup we're kind of going for that for kind of a race weekend race car. So weight's not necessarily something that we want to add, but sometimes it can't be helped. This is really nice construction. I'm pretty impressed so far with how it looks and how it feels. But all right, well, let's go ahead and get the factory intake off, and then we can put this one on, and then we can see what we get from it in terms of power. So the first step is going to be to remove the factory intake. Now that we have that done, we're going to install the Mishimoto intake. That's step 2. So in the box, you're given a handful of things that are going to be 2015 plus specific. And as of right now, these are the 2015 plus specific items. You have this adapter for your PCV little vent thing that's on the back side of the valve cover. That connects here, and this goes to that little sensor that's back there. You 2015 plus guys will understand when you see it. This is the IAT sensor that's on the 2015 plus. The 2013s get a different style sensor, and it just bolts in. It's almost like it just has a bolt that goes in right here, and it sticks in right there. And you might have to use this adapter piece for that, is what I'm assuming, because this does not fit in there. So I quickly ruled that out as having anything to do with what I'm doing. And since this only really goes one way with this, I figured that it had to lock this little tab down. So it essentially just goes in, you just slide the sensor in like that, and then slide this over it, and it sits there and locks in place. And then we're gonna use, I think these are both the same, but just use one of these guys and tighten that down, and then that should be locked in there, and that's how that goes. Easy peasy. This neck down one should fit the turbo, and it should also fit the Power Max. It's the same size as stock, and that's going to go on the turbo. This end's going to go down to this. This is going to connect to this in some orientation, most likely like that, and then this just sticks through the box like that, and we clamp the air filter straight on there inside the box. Voila. Part is going to make or break my day. I'm going to try to get this back in there and in where it needs to go without removing this. And I have a feeling I might have to take this off, or at least loosen it to where I can get a little bit more leverage or a little bit more space. But with some luck, I'll be able to snake this sucker back in there and not have to remove that.
Yeah, you sure you want to get a psh in the first?
Can you start it up and get a psh in so I can leave?
You could try it with and without the cap.
Yeah, sure.
You guys ready for the turbo noises?
Yeah, I did!
Alright. Okay, so intake is mostly installed. I think we're going to try maybe doing a couple of runs without the top of the air box and then with the air box, like fully sealed, and just see if it makes a difference. But we're going to do that tomorrow because it is 5 o'clock today and I want to go home. So I will be wearing different clothes at the end of this video in case that kind of continuity bothers people. Alright, so we're just letting the car warm up. We just got here this morning. Yesterday we finished up the install for the intake, the Mishimoto intake, and it is ready to get some pulls done. We're using the baselines. The before baselines are going to be the last pulls that we did with the intake manifold and throttle body spacers, because the car hasn't changed since then. The only thing we did is we took it off the dyno, put more gas in it, and put it back on the dyno. And then we installed the intake just now. So those befores would be good for a baseline. And so now, once the car is at the appropriate temp, which it should be in just a second, we are going to do a few pulls. Right now we have the lid off the airbox, and we're going to do that first, and then we're going to put the lid on and do a few more and see if that changes anything. I don't really think it'll change too much, but might as well find out while we're doing this. And the other thing I can say is, man, this thing sounds like a hurricane on a cold start, with the lid off at least. I didn't try it with the lid on, but when I started it this morning to start warming it up, it was like a hurricane coming from back here. It was crazy. And it sounds, I will say, I do like, you can really hear the turbo a lot better now. Like, it's very solid. You get all this stew noise going on there, but yeah, it's running. But yeah, it's pretty loud, and you can definitely hear the blow-off valve and everything. I can tell the blow-off valve isn't quite opening when it should now. That's actually something I couldn't really tell before with the stock intake, and now I can tell, like, and it's got to do with the new turbo and a bunch of different things that get calculated into when the valve is supposed to open. So I am going to have to actually tweak the tune a little bit for this intake. I'm not going to do that for the power pulls because it's not necessary, but for a drivability perspective, like, I'm going to make a few little tweaks and make sure that this thing, the blow-off valve's opening like it's supposed to be. But that's not going to matter for what we're doing with the power pulls. But yeah, let's see if we are close to temperature now. Oh yeah, we're ready to go. All right, let's do some pulls and see if we make any more power. All right, so we just did 3 pulls with the intake, and going back to look at the spacer logs and the spacer graphs, one thing that I can tell is that with the intake, we are spooling just a teensy bit quicker. And you can see that on this graph that I'll post up on the screen. But you can see that with the intake, it spools just a little bit quicker. We're also carrying more torque everywhere. It did gain, and this is actually the 3rd pull compared to the 3rd pull from the spacer video. And you can see right here in this like 3,200 RPM or 3,200 RPMs to about 3,800 RPM range. There's about 10 foot-pound gain peak, and the rest is about like 8 or so foot-pounds of torque just right there. And it carries throughout the whole pull. You have about 5 or so foot-pounds of torque, and then up top you can see the horsepower. It's about, what is that, 68? Yeah. So it's kind of, it's basically what Mishimoto said. We got about 6 horsepower, and that's without me having to touch the tune or anything. So I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, it did exactly what they said it would do, and maybe even a little bit more torque gained than what they said. And the spool up is nice too. But again, we're not on the stock turbo, we're not on the stock tune, so but we are seeing the results of what bolting on an intake can do. It's not a whole lot, but it is something, and it sounds pretty cool. Like, you got a lot more turbo noise with this than what you had before. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, we're gonna put the airbox lid on now and see if that makes any kind of difference, and do a few more pulls and just kind of compare. I don't know if it'll make much difference. I don't know that it'll matter, because with the hood closed and everything, you're not getting air from the fan, so kind of, it may just be a wash with that. But I want to see anyways, just see if it makes any kind of difference while I've got it here. But anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and do some pulls and see what we get there. Yeah, so we just did a pull with the airbox lid on, and we lost about 10 foot-pounds of torque, maybe a little more. And then with the horsepower, we lost about 4 horsepower. So it could be a little bit warmer. We let it cool off some though, so it should be back more to like its colder state. I'm gonna do another pull just to kind of see, but if it changes. But yesterday we noticed when we were kind of playing with it, putting the airbox lid on and revving it, and then taking it off and revving it, and Victor was just holding it, and it would suck the box lid down whenever I would rev it. So that tells me that there's a lot of air that filter's pulling in right there, and when you close that lid, it cuts it off. And so I'm thinking that maybe we just need to leave that lid off, although that might have some effect with temperatures. Won't look as clean as with the lid on, but we did just lose a substantial amount of torque right after putting the lid on. So I'm going to do another pull and just kind of see if it backs that up, and we'll go from there. But I think we might end up leaving that lid off and just having all the turbo noises. Okay, so second pull with the airbox lid on, torque came back up and power came up a little bit. We are also dealing a little bit with it getting hotter as we keep doing pulls, so it's possible that our power is kind of evening out right there. Yeah, it's 354 foot-pounds of torque, 373.2 horsepower. And yeah, I mean, that's fairly decent, I guess. My thoughts on the box: the hood's going to be closed anyway, so that's probably going to have some effect on the airflow. So really, it's just going to be determined on how loud you want it to be. So like for me personally, I don't want it to be crazy loud. I do love the turbo noises. It's fun for a little bit, but it does get old for me. So I would go lid on and just maybe suffer like a 1 or 2 horsepower loss, and then have it be a little bit quieter. But some of you guys, you might like the sound. You might want to go lid off, and again, it's not like it's that hard to remove, so you can take it on and off as you please. But yeah, I think that's going to be just about all we need to do as far as the dyno is concerned with the intake. Okay, so that's going to just about wrap up this video. I'm going to go ahead and install our little carb EO number here on this intake, as that is becoming more and more important to have stuff like this on your aftermarket parts. And there's several companies that are actively working to get carb certification for their parts. It's good to see Mishimoto's doing it. I know Cobb is also doing it, and there we go. And for depending on where you're at in emissions-related states, you're going to need to have that when you install a part that they're going to look at and be like, oh, is this carb certified? And well, in this case, we have a carb EO number. So if you are in California, where they're super strict about that, and you have this intake, it is carb certified, and it is also certified to gain 6 wheel horsepower. So one other thing I really like about this intake is that it fits all the year models, 2013 and plus. It was a little bit confusing at first, because one of the parts that I needed was hidden under some plastic and I didn't see it there. But because the 2015s have that different little sensor on the back from the 2013 and 14s, you end up having to order this specific intake for your specific year, and this one fits all of them. So you can always make it work if you have a 2013 or 14, or if you have a 2015 plus, or if you're selling it after you're done with it, or if you're buying it used. Like it'll fit as long as it comes with all the parts that you need for that. It looks good. It's that OEM Plus kind of look. I don't like the clamps. I'm probably using the wrong clamps. We have leftover clamps. There's a ton of clamps, but these I don't like these clamps. I feel like you don't necessarily need a better clamp because it's not holding pressure or anything. It's just an intake. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of these clamps. They feel really small and cheap, and they're kind of hard to work with, especially down there near the turbo. But yeah, so as far as the sounds go, it makes all of the appropriate turbo sounds that you're going to enjoy with or without the lid on. It doesn't really seem to make that big of a difference. Right when we put the lid on, there was a pretty decent torque drop, but I did a few more pulls and it came back up. So I think that's just the Focus being the Focus and the way it targets torque and everything. But yeah, it didn't seem to make that big of a difference putting the lid on. And you do get a lot of air coming through here from the front end. That might be where a future one of those Velocitech snorkels might get installed to help get more air into this box. So thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you guys liked it. Be sure to like and subscribe. That way you get notifications, because next time we're going to be installing an exhaust on the car. We got the intake wrapped up. We got the turbo noises. Now we need to get the good exhaust noises coming out the back. So we're going to be installing the, which one was it? That's right, we're going to be installing the AFE, the Takata, no, wait. Oh, it's the MBRP. We're going to do the, I'm pretty sure JP said we're going to do the Gretty exhaust. Actually, we're going to be installing all of these exhausts next week on the Focus ST. We're going to pick one that we like to leave on there, and we're going to put that one on the dyno to get a does it make more power segment. But we are going to put all of these on the car and get sound clips for all of them. And that's going to be AFE, MBRP, Gretty, AWE, and a couple of different versions it looks like, Borla, and Engine. Thank you guys for watching the video. Subscribe so you get that notification, because you're not going to want to miss the all-inclusive, all the exhaust possible video that we're going to do for this. You may have seen it for our Civic video. Now it's happening for the Focus. We'll catch you guys next time.